So how did the momentum go? We have discussed the different phases, Gandhiji participating actively, and all the stages of civil disobedience movement. Now how did the people react for this one? We have seen the different phases of the momentum, but let us now try to understand from different people's perspectives. Let us take the different classes of people and try to understand how did they feel about the civil disobedience movement. When we talk about the rich community people, the Patandars, the rich community people are always very active in the movement. So they want actually the Britishers to change the laws, to support the laws. They want them to reduce the revenue, the taxation system, because of these boycotts or because of the economic depression, the people are facing severe kind of problems and the economy has come down. So they want the reduction of the revenue. But in 1931, when the civil disobedience movement was being suspended, there was no promise made on the reduction of the revenue, and many of the people could not understand why the movement has been suspended. Later, when again in 1932 the civil disobedience movement has been restarted or reinitiated by Gandhiji, many of the rich community people, as they were not assured or they were not confirmed that these efforts will be done if they cooperate with Gandhiji, so they decided, most of the people, not to be part of active role. So that's how the rich community people, initially they were very active, but later on, because of the momentum got stopped and restarted again, people also lost confidence in this one. And when it comes to the poor people were not expecting just the reduction of the revenue or reduction of the taxation. They were actually expecting, because of the severe economic depression, loss of the crops, famines, droughts, and people participating in the civil disobedience movements, the money which they have to pay for the money lenders or the talukdars, the taxes are being increased. So this time they want a promise from the government side that they would not be given, or there will be a waive off of the taxes. There will be completely reduction of the taxes, or no rent for the fields for what they are doing the cultivation. But somehow Congress party was not willing to get this kind of assurance from the Congress party side itself. There were no clear stands made by the Congress in assuring the people, especially the farmers, the peasants, the labor, that there will be a waive off of the rents, because Congress itself has been sidelining this issue, has been taking the U-turn on this point, and they never promised to the peasants that they are going to bring any kind of benefits for the peasants, those who are participating in the movement. So that's how the Congress also lost the support of the poor sections of the people. So the rich people are not satisfied because there was no reduction of the taxation, because they actively participated in the movement and they did the movement to be a very large movement, but the promise was not made. And when it comes to the poor people, they were initially expecting that at least for a brief period the taxation would be waived off, or there would be no rent collected at least for a timeline of 1 or 2 years, because of the bad climatic conditions, droughts, famines, and reduction of the rupee value and the economic global crisis. All these factors also, but Congress party could not make any stand on whether the things are being to be reduced or at least to be considered. So this always made common people to be away from Congress. And the third one, the industrialists have started two major organizations, that is Indian Industrial and the Commercial Congress in 1920, and they also established the Federation of Chamber of Commerce Industry in 1927, which was participated, or the active members during this one was JD, Birla Group, Patadars. All these people were very active during that time, and this is also one of the reason why the industrial workers could not take active part in the civil disobedience movement, because all the industrialists, all the rich people are always with the Congress. Congress never promised anything for the poor people, neither for the peasants nor for the workers. This is also one of the key factors why the industrial workers decided to stay away from the momentum, while the industrialists are always close to the Congress. These are some of the key factors which the Congress has to assign itself and recheck itself. Introspection has to be done. Why is the civil disobedience movement failed? And then the railway workers and the mine workers participated very actively. In 1930s, the railway workers with the Gandhi cap, they have denied to work in the dockyards, and at the same time the mine workers in the Chota Nagpur tin mine, they also showed their dissatisfaction towards the British rule, but they also participated very actively. And moving on to women role, women participated very actively. She moved off our traditional backdrop of the houses, they stepped outside, they participated actively in the Gandhiji's picketing of the wine shops or bonfires of the foreign goods, and they also participated in the satyagraha movements and all these things. And it is a message given to women that it is a sacred cause. When a woman comes out and fights for a nation, it is a sacred cause. So yes, women have very actively participated in this movement, but the social status of women has not changed at any level. The social status has still remained in the same manner what it was prior to the women active participation. Today also it is in the same process. So somehow women also are being disassociated and there is no change in their social status. So the different levels of people have their own expectations from the civil disobedience movement. But actually Gandhiji intention was not to upset all these categories of people. Gandhiji, why did he stop the civil disobedience movement? We all have discussed it prior to this, that Gandhiji could not see the common people facing the troubles. More than 1 lakh satyagrahas were arrested. People were beaten up brutally. Women were being tortured. Children are being beaten up. And he did not think of the rich community people, what was their plan actually out of the civil disobedience movement. Where the rich community people were expecting that the reduction of the revenue would be there, the taxation would be reduced. Well, the poor peasants were expecting that there would be a waiving of rents, a fee waiver, a tax waiver would be an added benefit. That, and when it comes to the industrialists have started their own organizations and always try to be very close in order to get the foreign laws which are banning them to have foreign trade has to be modified, and to have a check on the rupee sterlings. So all these things were not in the brain of Gandhiji while he was suspending the civil disobedience movement. The people have participated actively. The percentage of people participated in this movement are very good. But there are certain sections of people who are being denied completely. When Gandhiji suspended the movement, many of the people don't know what is the reason behind the suspension of the movement by Mahatma Gandhiji. And when again he restarted the movement, when we suspend a movement, we should achieve certain kind of promises or our targets have to be met clearly. But Gandhiji suspended because people are facing trouble. When again Gandhiji relaunched the movement, the people started to have a doubt on the movement, like why is the movement being started again and what are the consequences of this one. Without any promise also the movement can be suspended. And let us move on to check the other side of the civil movement or civil disobedience movement's negative impacts. What are the limitations of the civil disobedience movement? Let us discuss them in brief. Let us see here. Most of the people are being denied because in India we have more than 30% of people falling under the category of untouchables, Dalits, scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. We have a categorization according to the Hindu society of Manu Dharma Shastra. The people are being categorized broadly into 4 categories. 1, we have the Brahmins. 2, the Kshatriyas. 3, the Vaishyas. 4, the Sudras. As the timeline passed off from the 1st century to it came to the 20th century, the first 3 category people are considered as upper caste people, while the 4th category people are considered as lower caste people. These lower caste people come under the names of Dalits, scheduled caste, scheduled types. So this section of people are being completely denied from social well-being in the society. These people are not being allowed to enter into the temples. They are not being allowed to drink in the public wells, to participate in the public functions, to have a public dining, to move to the roads, public roads or schools where they are being completely banned in these places. So Gandhiji, after observing this untouchability in India, he gave a call, serious call to all the people saying that if untouchability is not being arrested now, even after 100 years also, we cannot achieve independence. So untouchability is a sin. Untouchability has to be stopped immediately. So Gandhiji called these Dalits or the scheduled caste people as Harijans, the people of the God, and he requested all the people to break all the social barriers and to have free intimacy with them by allowing them into the temples, public wells, tanks, roads and schools. So Gandhiji started to focus on the negative places where the movement has been failed. So Gandhiji initiated this process by calling the untouchables and Dalits as Harijans, the people of God. Later, the second major dysentery thing was when the people are being neglected like this, B.R. Ambedkar started an association of these Dalits and the backward classes people, and he wanted to have a representation of these people, and he also decided to have a separate electoral voting system for these people. In the second roundtable conference, he wanted to have this separate representation for the backward classes people so that that particular category of people can also develop and equate themselves with the other communities of people in the society. But with the news of Ambedkar's association, Gandhiji felt very bad because this is disintegrating the society. Instead of uniting the society is getting broken up into pieces. Gandhiji felt very bad and he started to do fasting unto death because this will slow down the process of unification of the nation, integration of the nation. This is a serious concern which has to be addressed in a different way. So finally, in 1932 September, Gandhiji went on fasting death. So B.R. Ambedkar came to a compromise with Gandhiji by signing the Pune Pact, in which there are certain special reservation of seats given in the general elections to the scheduled caste people. So that's how the pact came up in 1932, where the separate electoral voting process for the Dalits and the backward classes has been banned. Gandhiji and Ambedkar have serious negotiations on this and try to solve out the issue. The other section of people who are being completely neglected are the Muslims. The Muslims were initially very much in favor of Congress. As we have discussed earlier, the Congress started the non-cooperation movement aligning with the Khilafat movement. So Gandhiji's initial step was to align Hindus and Muslims together. But when the non-cooperation movement got suspended, the Khilafat movement also got automatically suspended. Why did Gandhiji suspend the non-cooperation movement? He did not take any concern from any of the Muslim leaders, either from Shaukat Ali or from Muhammad Ali. So this raised the anger of the people. And by 1930s, the Congress efforts to solve the disputes in 1928 went on failed. In 1930, Muhammad Ali Jinnah started to ask for a separate representation for the Muslim League, not with the Congress. They want a separate identity for the Muslims. And again, in 1928, when they tried to solve the issue, Mr. M.R. Jayakar, who was a Hindu Mahasabha leader, who opposed the views of the Muslim League and completely denied their allegations or their requisitions. This also raised the anger of the Muslims, and this completely disassociated the Muslims from the Indian Hindus, because we can't call them as Indian Muslims because they started to associate themselves from the Indian context, and this has given up for suspicion and distrust for the people, not only for Muslims, for the untouchables, for the Harijans, then for the Muslims. And Muslims also had a fear that Muslims are in minority in India, whereas the identity may be submerged by the Hindu majority. The minority group may lose their importance and their cultural values. So all these views are somehow which restricted the success of the civil disobedience movement. Let's have a brief recap of what happened, then we'll move on to the collective nationalism. So the rich people participated very actively initially in the movement. Their wish or their want is the reduce of revenue. They boycotted very actively. But when the movement got suspended, there was no promise made. And in 1932, when the movement was again relaunched, the people don't have any choice because they don't know why the movement has been suspended and what are the next step if the movement has been successful also. Next, no rent was the initial expectation of the poor people, poor peasants who participated in the civil disobedience movement. But there also, Congress failed to get an assurance for them and they lost the support of these people when it was relaunched second time. Third group, the industrialists are also very active. They have started two organizations, Indian Industrial Commercial Congress in 1920 and the Federation Chamber of Commerce of Industries in 1927, initiating and expecting that the ban on the foreign imports and exports would be waived off and there would be a rupee sterling happening, but somehow Congress could not do that also. And industrial workers genuinely they stayed away from the Congress because industrialists are with the Congress. That's how when the industrialists are with Congress, industrial workers decided that we were not able to get any kind of benefits from this one. And the railway workers and the mine workers also participated actively at the Chota Nagpur tin mines and the dockyards of the railways, but they also were not benefited with anything. Women participated very actively and they were considered as they are playing a very sacred role by participating in the Indian national movement, but the social status of women was not changed even though they participated very actively. Let us move on to the limitations. The sections of people are being neglected. The untouchables, the Dalits, the scheduled caste people are being not only neglected from the movement but from the society also. They were not being given entry into the temples. They were not being given allowed into the public wells, tanks, roads and schools. B.R. Ambedkar started an association in order to fill the gap and to bring the people united. But Gandhiji saw this move as it's a threat for the unification because we are asking for the bifurcation of the communities of the people, so that would disintegrate the unity. So the Pune Pact was signed in 1932 in September with certain special reservations given to the scheduled caste people. Muslims were also neglected. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the new turn leader, started to raise his voice to have a special representation for the Muslim League, where the efforts were made by the Congress, but they were stopped and opposed by the Hindu Mahasabha leaders like M.R. Jayakar. So these all created among the people the suspicion and distrust. None of the communities are clear or having clarity on what has to be done with the civil disobedience movement and what is the expectation of the momentum by Gandhiji. And they also had a doubt that Muslims, as they are in minority group, the culture and the identity would be submerged by the majority group of Hindus.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.